1946, and that's the tidal basin. That's where the cherry blossoms are located. And panning over toward the Washington Monument, and where they print up our dollar bills, Bureau of Printing and Engraving. Things have changed a lot since then. If I were to stand right at the same spot today, I'd be dead in about 2 seconds. This girl never did hit that ball through that hole. I thought I'd give her a chance, but 20 minutes later she was still there, and I didn't have that much film. I think her father had to hit her in the head to stop, I'm not sure. This is over at the East Potomac Park, by the way, the little golf course right outside the swimming pool. And here's the East Potomac Park swimming pool. A young lady, there was a boy, her boyfriend lived in the same boarding house that I did up on Park Road. Mary Lou may not remember this place, but Sugar sure does. She was there many times. And this is the little grass plot that if you didn't like to swim, you could just sit here and sunbathe. I don't know any of these people, and none of my friends are here. I was just over with my new camera, as I said, taking pictures hither, thither, and yon. Now, this fella looked like a good diver, so I thought to take a few pictures. The first dive wasn't bad. This one's almost a disaster, so I thought I'd take a slow motion in the next shot and see if we couldn't get a good dive on film. Here we go. Plop! Oh my God, I bet his back was sore for a week after that. Anyhow, this looks like the end of this particular sequence. Again, I don't know who this little baby is. I'm just using up film. I happen to have 50 feet on the little roll, so I thought I'd see how good it would come out when it was finished. Now here's the shot that I think Mary Lou would like. That's Mary Lou when she was about 11, 12 years old. Well, I should say that's you, Mary Lou, when you were about 11, 12 years old. This little act we put on for the benefit of the camera. There's Josephine, pregnant with Tony. I think this is 104 19th Street Southeast. I'm not sure. Anyhow, the armory is right directly in front of Joe. That's my brother Joe there, hamming it up as usual. Joe's all set now. He's going to play the beast. Mary Lou takes so much of it, and then she says, "Unhand me, you foul wretch." And Joe, being the lady killer, comes up to grab Mary Lou again. Got her. Mary Lou doesn't take any stuff from him. Mary Lou's being a ham bone now. Well, that's father and daughter years ago, and they're going in. Everybody can't be perfect, so that's the reason for that faux pas. That young lady walking across the street is Adelaide. She's 5 feet tall. She was 5 feet tall, 98 pounds at this particular time. She just came from the doctor, and you'll see the little patch on her arm there, on her right arm, where she found out she was pregnant. I guess that's how she found out she was pregnant. But anyhow, this is at 1407 Ames Place. This is where Leonard lived, Leonard and Pearl. Adelaide had a bad heart at this particular time. This was before her first open heart surgery. Just a little leg shot. A little more leg shot. This is a couple of neighbors across the street. I figured the camera wasn't as good as I thought because I figured I'd be able to see better. But what I saw is what you're seeing right now, next door neighbor in an old diamond cab. This shot is Christmas Day, 1947. And Pat was born January the 2nd, 1948, so that's about 7 days later. But this is at the Gray's house, 3411 Mount Rainier, 3411 34th Street in Mount Rainier. And that's the tree. Now, this is Mom and Pop Gray's house with the 12 kids. They're not all there today, but here they are coming in now. That's Eileen and Bunny. And that's Edgar in the foreground. That's Tommy with Calvin. That's Edgar. And that's old Pop passing out the presents. Tommy's expecting something for him. He hasn't got it. There's one. He got one. Tommy's grown up, of course, now and married and got about 5 or 6 kids. That was Jimmy. That's Bunny. You can just see Adelaide on the far left. That's when Christmas is enjoyable, when you see these little kids with their present. You see their faces light up. You know they love their presents. That's Jimmy there with his little bookcase. Tommy's waiting for more presents. That's Earl and Jody. And that's Calvin in the background. There's Adelaide, Eileen and Bunny, Tommy and Jimmy in the foreground. And Calvin finally got something for Christmas. He got a football. I think that's about all he did get. There's Mom Gray. That old gal was the hardest working gal I ever saw in my life. She used to be up 12 or 1 o'clock ironing clothes for these kids. Well, that's Calvin in the background there, and he's holding up Jody's. That's Jody there, holding up his own present. So it looks like a Merry Christmas for the family at that time. We'll have more pictures of the kids as they're growing up and have grown up. They're all living in Tampa, Florida right now, except Jimmy. These 2 girls were kind of showing off their type of dancing. I was teaching dancing at the Mount Rainier High School at the time, and this is toward the end of the class, and they put on a record. That's as well, as long as you're going to be dancing. Let me take some photos. And this is the style of the day. I think this is around 1948. So you can see the style: long dresses, flat shoes. Well, they danced the whole record, and you can see by that girl in the gray suit that she was kind of tired. But I didn't stop them. Now here we come to Adelaide and Pat. We were living on C Street, southeast at the time. That's Pat having her whatever. She doesn't need a knife or fork with that hand and mouth, I'll tell you. And of course, she's learning how to dial and talk on the telephone. Adelaide never seems like she wanted to have her picture taken. She was always perturbed when I started taking pictures. I guess everybody gets perturbed when you take pictures of them, but they like to look at them afterwards. Hello, it's for you. Howdy doody. There it goes again. It's for you again, Pat. Adelaide's going to teach Pat how to patty cake in a few seconds. Patty cake, baker's man. Here's the family, the Gray family, grown up by now. That's Edgar's wife over on the far left. That's John in the foreground with his kids, and Pat sitting next to him. That's Adelaide, Mom, and Betty with the shorts. Betty is John's wife, the guy that's sitting down in the front there. The one with the burr head there is, it's a good name for him. He's a burrhead. There's old Pop sitting standing in the background. And that was Edgar and Wendy. There's Edgar and Wendy there. That's his wife right next to him. There's Jim. He's grown up quite a bit. Mom and Betty. Adelaide. Jimmy. There's Pat. That's Betty's little girl there. And that's, who is that? That's Edgar taking the picture. There's Jimmy and Betty, Wendy, Pat, and Adelaide. And that little skunk there in the front, she's married and has about 2 or 3 kids now, living down Tampa. Now, this was over at our house in Arlington, Virginia. That was Virginia Cross. I went to school with her in Jefferson Junior High School years ago. Adelaide. That's Jim in the foreground. And that fellow in that light suit in the back there, he's dead now, but that's Adelaide's sister's husband, the girl that's sitting up against the banister there with the loose blouse, pregnant again. That's Betty. And, of course, there's Joe in the foreground. There's John. He's the oldest. And there's Mom and Mrs. Crittenden. There's Pat with that ukulele, which I still have. And this is the youngest of John's children. There's Edgar, Joe, Tommy, Earl, Jimmy, and that was Pop sitting down. They've grown up quite a bit since that first Christmas picture, don't you agree? Pop never took a drink in his life, but he was showing off. That's Mrs. Crittenden. That was the Adelaide's sister, that girl right there with the loose blouse on it. That's her foster mother, I guess you can call. And this is our house in on Longfellow Street in Arlington, Virginia. Now we're at Pat's shower, Pat's wedding shower. And those 2 girls and the gal at the back are relatives. And that's Steve's sister up there. There's Frank and Evelyn, of course, in the foreground. And Joe in the background. There's Joe and the groom's father and Adelaide in the background there. There's Adelaide hamming it up. And that's the groom's mother, Mrs. Mazza. And a few of the presents that Pat got, and she got plenty. This is the wedding itself. There's Adelaide, and I guess that's, I don't know who that usher is. There's Steve and his best man and two ushers up front. There's Grace looking around, see what she can see. Here comes the little Mazza girl. That's Francine going down now. And this is Judy. And that's Pat and I. Pat was leaning so hard on me that you can see I'm almost bending over to the side. This is the wedding had been performed, and this is as they're ready to leave. They wouldn't let you turn on lights in these churches, and consequently, the picture is awfully grainy. It irritates me. I don't understand why they don't allow you to turn on lights or have a floodlight to take a wedding. It's only a one-time deal. That is, unless you get married 40, 50 times. There's Francine, Judy, Steve's best man, Steve, Pat. I don't know most of them. That's me, and Steve, Pat, and Adelaide. That's Mrs. Mazza, Steve, Pat, and Mr. Mazza. And here we go again. Adelaide, Mrs. Mazza, Steve, and Pat, myself, and Mr. Mazza. This is the reception after the wedding. There's Grace. Watch Grace. She'll ham up the picture. Speaking of hamming, that's Rita, Grace's daughter, right there behind her. And that looked like Ron there, I'm not sure, but it looked like him. That was Liza in the foreground. Very good friend of Adelaide's. There's Joe and myself. There's Jim Gray. It's a shame I didn't take these pictures. It would have come out much better. I have to admit that. You can see the film really wasn't in focus. There wasn't enough light. There should have been more light in this section because this was the reception and not in the church. There's Brother Joe. Now I'm starting to take snapshots now. This is Pat back at the reception in her apartment in the hotel across the street from the church. Actually, it was an apartment house, and she seems to be very happy. Yeah, she looks like she's got Steve on the hook that time. Now this is getting ready to wish the kids bon voyage. Somebody had put rocks in the hubcaps, and they're taking the rocks out now. That was Pat. There's Steve. I don't know whether he was in on it or not, but anyhow, they're taking the rocks out of the hubcaps. There's Adelaide. Pat. and me taking a picture of my daughter and my wife. Saying goodbye to Pat. This guy didn't know what to do. He didn't know whether the hotel was afire or whether he should jump up or down. That was old 1965 Ford that I'd given to Pat for a long time ago, and I think they still have it up in Utica now. Bye-bye. Steve took these pictures. This is on the way to the honeymoon. It's up north. I think it's in the Adirondacks. I can't explain any of this to you, but these were pictures taken by Steve, and we just added it onto the film. Beautiful place. They told me they had a good time. It's quite a large place. I can see that. Now, we're going from what to what here? All this is at the condominiums in Gulf Harbors. I used to live in apartment 104G, and I invited Frank and Evelyn over for a swim. I think that's Frank in the foreground talking to Mary Sabone. And that's her husband up there, Mr. Sabone. He's dead now. But there's Frank in the foreground. I think that's Evelyn with the cap on right there in the front. It's Mr. and Mrs. Sabone. And I don't recall her name, but she was one of the tenants. These are a few more tenants in the Gulf Harbors condominium complex. Thought I'd be friendly and take a few of their pictures. Didn't like them, but I took their pictures anyhow. There's Frank, Mary. As I say, I can't remember the girl's name in the foreground. There's Evelyn. And that was Frank BF, before Fat. This was the groundskeeper. He came over to ask Frank how he was doing. I told him that Frank was my guest and leave him alone. I think that gal that you just saw there has been there ever since Noah brought his ark in. Just trying to take a little cheesecake. There hadn't been any change in this place. It looks just the same today as it did then. Here's another day, another dollar. Same place. I think it's a different cast of characters. There's Frank. He's not showing off because he can't dive anyhow. Evelyn getting ready to partake of the water. I think she's the only one who wore a cap at the time. I'm not sure. I thought that was Francine at first, but it isn't. This complex is right across the street from where I live now in Gulf Harbors, and Mary Lou, you may remember it because it's just down the street from the Holiday Inn. If you recall when you and Ron and the children visited. Well, I don't think she'll ever make the Olympics. Here comes my gal. Oh, Evelyn. She enjoys herself no matter where she is. Again, I don't know who these people are. They're there, and I'm taking the pictures. That's Frank, and that was a pretty girl, so wherever a pretty girl is, Frank is, right? Right. We went over to Anthony's Pizza, Frank, Evelyn, myself, and there's Joe getting ready to make his pizza. Well, he's got the dough there now, throwing it around. Yeah, he's pretty good. They make a good pizza over there. Oh, now we're back at the Holiday Inn, and this is one of Mary's little youngster. I don't know if it's Cindy or Kathy. I'm not sure. But she's having the ball, whoever she is. Mary Lou, which one is that? Isn't she a doll baby? Hey, look at that good-looking fella. That handsome man. That's Mary Lou. That's the most that she would allow me to take. I couldn't go any higher. And that's Ron, of course. I understand he's a little heavier than he is now. I had him go down and walk back and say hello. Now, here we are in Pikeville. That's Marilyn over in the background, Josephine. And I don't know who the little girls are, but that's Pearlie. We all took a ride up. That's Mike in the foreground with his long hair. If you see him now, he has about 1/10 of that hair. That's Angelo. I understand this little girl here is a nurse now. I'm not sure, but been some time ago. That's little Jason in the background there, Angelo and Jason. And, of course, Brother Joe again. There's Joe, Mike, Josephine. Mike and I have the same profile. There's Marilyn waving it up. Poor Pearlie with her neck in that sling. I don't think she enjoyed herself too much. Would you believe that Marilyn at that time was about 140 pounds? He's 105 now. Joe didn't know that I caught him. Now he sees that the camera's on him, and he turned around. This is the Angelo and Jason's birthday party. I think it was a year later. There's Jason. That was Angelo just a while ago. Big show off. He hadn't changed. He's still a show off. Jason's even a bigger one. That's Don. That's Button's husband. Of course, there's Mike. If you can count the candles, it looks like about 3, 6, 8 for Angelo. And I don't know how old Jason was at the time, but it was the same day as Josephine being the party hostess and Don helping out. There's Mike. That's Dory. Yes, this was a year later from the first set of pictures, when Pearl was shown in the pictures. We brought Dory up. We were taking her up to North Carolina to check out a school that she wanted to go to. There's Mike having a ball. Marilyn. She lost a little weight from the year before. And again, I don't know who these girls are, but they're friends of Joe's family, and Josephine knows them well. There's Button. would not come on camera. And this is Button's son and daughter just walked in. Here are the two children, Angelo and Jason, opening up their birthday cards. From me, by the way, and I gave him a $5 bill, and Angelo says, "Oh, look, $1." Oh, look, $1. And Jason just can't figure out how to get that thing open. He don't know what's in there, but he can't read what's in there. All he saw was that $1 bill with 5 marked on it. And that's Button and Don's son. I understand he's a computer expert now. That's Button, his mother. And this is her daughter that just didn't want to be bothered having her pictures taken. I don't know whether that's evident or not.